Greetings one and all. I wanted to talk a little bit about essence and what Rodney Collin talks about it. And he, in his book, he's talking a lot about how there's different essences and how different people work in different ways to follow the work. What one path is for one person can be different for somebody else. And of course he's discussing a lot about attention. Where is our attention? Where is your attention focused? He talks about self-remembering as well, which he says is quite difficult unless it is explained to one. And Rodney Collin, worked with Ouspensky for many years. And Ouspensky probably is one of the best people to go to find out about what self-remembering is. But one of the important parts of the Gurdjieff work is attention. Where is our attention? Have we divided it? Are we making use of it? Obviously there's the talk about how we divide the attention so that we are watching ourselves and what we're doing and what we're up to and where our attention is focused. But I wanted to just do a little quote from Rodney Collin where he says, "What is true food for Saturnine essence is useless for martial and vice versa. Feats of endurance which will enrich one man's essence may blunt another's." And I think that's quite important because people are often asking me, well, how did you get into the work? What do you do for Gurdjieff work? Well, I can say to people what I do, but it does not necessarily mean it's the same for you. Maybe you have to come at it from a different angle. You know, there's many paths to Rome, as they say. But we're all working towards the same aim, which again is one of the most important parts of the Gurdjieff work, of developing our aim. And Rodney Collin goes on to talk about how if we don't use our energy in the right way in developing ourselves, or if we let it flounder, I suppose, he talks about how it can then become changed into negative emotions, or it's a misuse of sexual energy. You've got to remember the sexual energy is a creating force, and we can use that sexual energy in us because it's such a fine energy to... Now my neighbour's decided to start doing some kind of gardening. I don't know if you can hear that. But creating that sexual energy thing, my attention was diverted then by the neighbour. We want to refine that energy so that we can direct it to be part of using the work, of developing on ourselves. And this is one of the reasons why there's so much misuse of sexual energy in the world today by the masses. You know, they're not using that sexual energy in themselves to develop themselves, so it's just hanging around in them and it's still trying to drive them, which is why there's such a big problem with pornography and sexual misconduct and things like that, because that energy is inside them trying to come out, where we should be using it to refine it so that we can use it to help become within us, to help us as that energy to develop ourselves and our attention and to work upon our essence. And Rodney Collin goes on to say about the essence. So I was saying, feats of endurance which will enrich one man's essence may blunt another's, while subtleties by which this others grow, sensitive or merely enervating to the first. Thus each man must begin to feel for himself what feeds his essence, what makes him more himself. And I know sometimes we get quite comfortable in doing certain exercises with the Gurdjieff work, which is why I try and change my exercises every few months, because it, you know, keeps you on point, doesn't it? You don't mechanicalize it. You don't do the same thing over and over again. You know, as they say, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and getting no results, it's kind of insanity, isn't it? But by changing my exercises every few months, I'm working at myself from different angles, different paths. But it's trying to make sure that that sexual energy that's within me is being refined so that I can use it to help my development. As we know, it's a higher vibration, it's a different vibration. And we have to transform it so that it works for us and with us. And again, this whole Gurdjieff work is a transformation, it's an alchemical practice. Rodney Collin talks a lot in his book on the celestial harmonies about how all the planets are helping the sun develop. And we have to look at ourselves as that, we are also developing all the different parts within ourselves, which is why we have different, how shall I say it? Like with an astrological chart, you've got so much Venus is in a certain zodiac sign, or your Mars is in a certain zodiac sign. So you're getting all these different attributes. We must make them all work together. But they're all coming at us from different degrees. Again, each person is different because their horoscope, their astrological chart is different at their birth to each other's, which is sometimes why one path works for some people for a while and other paths work for other people. I wanted to do another Rodney Collin quote. Right, so this is talking about how we're trying to develop ourselves and how we should be looking at ourselves and what our attention is doing, what we're relating to. He can be aware either of the person to whom he is speaking or of his own words. He can be aware of someone else's distress or of a pain in his own body. He can be aware of a scent or of his own faults. But caught on very rare occasions, he is not aware simultaneously if his own words and the person to whom he is addressing them, if his own pain and someone else's, of a scent and his thoughts about it. Thus all man's awareness in his ordinary state may be classed as fascination. And he goes on to talk about how when we misuse the energies that we're being given to work with, and that sexual energy is not being used for developing oneself, creating that energy within yourself, it becomes something else. It works in kind of a negative way, gets involved in daydreaming or gets attached to something like, finding a new fad to follow, or gets caught up in perhaps watching TV all day and getting caught up in that TV series you're watching. It distracts us because it's wanting to be used, so it's finding something to attach itself to. And I know I'm saying about how to use the sexual energy in a more productive way. This is something we have to settle down on, think about. What am I doing with all my energy? Where am I focusing it? Where is my attention? And again, for each person it is different, but it is important perhaps to be sensing yourself, your body, your mind. What are these things? What is your right leg doing? What is your mind thinking about? How are your emotions working at this moment when you're thinking about doing the work? Are you trying to be distracted by something? Is there an eye in you that's trying to distract you from doing this work? These are all things to ponder upon. It's the whole going and either sitting or standing somewhere just for a few minutes in silence, just to see what comes to you and how you're feeling, thinking, being. So these were just a few words I wanted to talk about with the Rodney Collin book that I'm currently rereading, which was, it's because I was reading Terry Ayton's book on Rodney Collin, which made me go back to looking at what Rodney Collin had been saying. I found the first book I had of his quite difficult to read at the time, but I think it's because I wasn't well enough associated with the Gurdjieff work to be able to put forward what Rodney Collin was saying. But attention is something that we do need to work with, and I have done a little video on Gurdjieff and attention, which if you wanted to know more about attention, please look through the videos to find that. I think I've just called it Attention Gurdjieff, which is the quotes that Gurdjieff talks about with focusing one's attention. So thank you for watching. Until next time, peace and out.